Oral Histories Live. My name is Rod Klein. I'm the host of the program. First things first, we need to thank our sponsors, Mike and Esther Wilson, who make this program possible, and who always sit right here to keep an eye on me. So you can trust in the quality of the show. Speaking of the quality of the show, usually I don't tell you how the sausage is made for this program. We kind of do that behind the scenes, and I do some prep work, and I try to be a third-rate Terry Gross and all of those sorts of things. For today's program with the great Slayton Thompson, I think I can confidently say that he is over-prepared and I am under-prepared. So what we're going to try to do here is I'm going to grab hold of the reins and we're going to see what happens. Slayton wants to start with a video, right? Who's in charge of making it go? Oh!
Before you do that, I'd like to thank all my friends who are here tonight. I am now 73. I'm retired from the school district. My wife is in Arkansas, and my son is home. I think he's sick. I'm not sure, because his mother is in the hospital with COVID. And so stubborn Eric's going to have to get a test tomorrow. That's all I know. But I want to thank you very much for being here. This is my season of seniorship. And I've had a lot of youth time here. I came here when I was in my 20s out of the service. And this town has helped me grow up immensely. And my mother, to clue into this, and my father and my family of 14 prayed for me the whole time I was screwing up. And when I was doing it really bad, they prayed even harder. And when I was doing really good, they were praying even harder. So I'm not wishy-washy. That theme that you see back there, and if you get a chance, Red, White, and Blue Banquet for the drum corps, had a cross in the middle of it. The drums, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson bought these horns for the drum corps. I was so surprised to see them sponsor. I'm not surprised, I'm just happy that because when our kids needed horns, these two individuals bought horns. And we had lots of horns. The problem is we couldn't get people, and I'll tell that down the road, to stay. Anytime you do anything free, it's hard to get people to teach for free. And I understand that. But I tell you what, when we did use them on that field, it was wonderful. So now, let's see a little bit of Mom. This was at Christmas time. I was a member of First Lutheran Church, and the ELCA out of Iowa City asked me to go to Africa. So I went to Kenya, and we can talk about that later. But they also asked me to bring my mother to Cedar Rapids because they heard so much about me talking about my mom and dad. I had both of them together. They weren't separated. So this will set up how I begin my life, and tonight in this funeral is perfect how I end it. Go ahead.
Slayton was one of 11 children. Slayton's 89-year-old mother, Beatrice, says even though they didn't always have much money, they still joyfully celebrated the birth of Jesus.
But I explained to the children, you get what we can afford. And it was beautiful. They had a train, and my husband loved to sit and play with that with the children. And then he'd get the children around the piano, and they would all sing. I couldn't sing, so I was left out. I couldn't carry a voice. And I did all my baking, my cakes, my pies, and my bread. Then once in a while we had other children coming in. As I said, we can't really say that we had a bad Christmas.
That's my dad. That's every time. That's my aunt. That's Uncle Joe. The kids in the neighborhood we thought was my sister, but it wasn't. That's the house we lived on Court Street in Rockford, Illinois. We had a dirt basement. There was the friendly neighbors. They would come over and sleep on the steps. There was a Briggs Hotel across the street. And we couldn't go across the street because there was a lot of, those are neighborhood kids, and the three in the back are my brother, Butch, Mike, and David. That's my aunt. That's my oldest brother, Mike and Butch. My dad had lots of dogs. I think that's me. I love bib overalls. That was one of our birthday parties. We all ate the same cake. That bathtub underneath that table was our bathtub. My sister hates that when I bring this up or show it. She says, why you show people? I said, that's how we grew up. There's nothing to be ashamed of. That's my dad, of course, and none of his dogs. I don't have pictures of my dad with Count Basie, but when we was in Springfield, Illinois, I missed out on a drum competition because my dad was talking to this guy I thought had the flu, but it was Count Basie. And that's how Louis Armstrong. He had the raspy voice. Count Basie was another story. That's my baby brother on the left, and that's my twin on the right, Stanley. That's my nephew, and that's my brother Sidney. I put his picture up there. He died of Vietnam for Agent Orange. Mom taking a nap. If I would have run away if I was with her. Okay, now let's see. Let's move it up a little bit because that's my oldest sister Mary, and she had 4 boys that my mother took care of. Yeah. Because all you're going to see is me and my brothers in our bib overalls and that same cake stuff. Okay, there we go. Stop right there. Okay, that's the whole family. That's my nephew. He bought a car. He was 17. We didn't know he even had a job, but we all had to work, delivering newspapers. There's my baby sister Joyce and Will John and my brother Sidney. I would take my sister downtown to walk, and the guy hollered out the car, "Let that white girl go, nigger." And that was my sister. Because we all had different shades in our black families. We all looked different. We don't have one set of rules. That was a neighborhood gang. Butch, Mike, and Mary, they run the roost. That's my first time on the horse. National Lock Company, where my dad worked, always had picnics, and we all got to ride horses and stuff. And the church always brought food and meals and toys for us, so we didn't have any special help from the government. We had to spend, that was our Sunday school class. It was huge. The church was small, so it looked like we'd built Joe Holstein, but it was just a small building with lots of kids. Lots of kids. It was family. It was wonderful.
And Slayton, where did you grow up?
Rockford, Illinois.
Okay.
Okay, now you can move it on down. Keep going. Grandma, well, that's okay. She was 105 when she died, my great-grandmother. That's my dad's spoiled William. We couldn't stand that boy because my dad wouldn't let us touch him. No matter what he did, he got away with it. My dad loved him. We were so jealous of that kid. And he ended up living with me for 3 years in Cedar Rapids. Now he has a car lot and he flips houses, lives in a $1 million home. He did well for himself. Rough start. My mom had that house tore down when my dad died because we had people living in it. My dad thought we had property we could rent out, but people would steal the furniture out of it. It was, a furnished apartment. And so when he died, she said, enough of that, and just had it tore down. She got tired of that nonsense. That's my nephew. He lived with me for 3 years. He was in Afghanistan, and they gave him, because this has been recorded, but they messed him up, and so he had to come home. He went to Walter Reed. That's my brother, Wendell, and his wife. And that's Sidney again. I took a lot of pictures. I just love Sidney. I love them all, but he's a real hero. That's my sister's class. Okay, moving on down until they get to the end there. Let's move it all the way down. There we go. That's my wife and my mother's birthday party, and the guy in the White House, my oldest brother, Mike. He was in the Navy. Each of us we all served in the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force in my family. We covered every branch of the service. We didn't want to go to the service, but my dad said, I went, you guys go. And that was another party. That's all family right there. Rockford. Betty Daniels sitting out there. We got another name for Rockford. She said, don't go Rockford on me. That's my wife, Linda, in the blue. I'm there in the middle with nice dark hair. Okay. Family, yeah, family. Go on down. Keep on doing. Yeah, that's my niece. Oh, okay, go ahead. She's cerebral palsy. Let's get to about right there. That good-looking guy talking there. And then one Christmas, there was a card on the tree. I'll never forget it. It said, "This is all we have, and we love you." And I realized, working at the Pink Pony, or I didn't particularly like working there, but I worked there because Mom, she knew what she was doing. She knew that if we didn't get a good education or something would happen, that we'd all know how to work. You know, we'd know how to work, and I worked. Believe me, we all worked. We all knew how to work. And we didn't do a lot of crying or begging, and we thought everybody wore blue jeans with patches on it. And then the church would, every Christmas and every Mother's Day or Father's Day, we'd win a Bible because the family that was the biggest would win a Bible. We had enough Bibles to start our own Salvation Army. We'd have Bibles from one end to the other, and so the special thing about Christmas is we celebrate the birth of Christ, and it's the same Christ that sustained my 89-year-old mother, and I hope to live as long that my faith will be as strong. That's enough. So there we go.
Okay, so that's a lot. Let's start. So you grew up in Rockford.
Mm-hmm.
How old are you when you go into the service?
Well, I was probably, I got drafted, I think I was 17, 18.
And that would have been when?
1966, 67, around there.
And how long do you serve?
2 years.
Okay. And then when you come out of...
Well, 2 years, if you do 2 years active, then you don't have to do the National Guard thing, you know. You know, we didn't have to do all that. That was enough, and that's enough.
Right. And did you go overseas?
Yes, I did.
To Vietnam?
No, that's a good story. When I was, Sydney, who was in Vietnam, who had Agent Orange, and my twin, who was a gunny sergeant in the Marines, they were all brothers in the Marine Corps. When I trained at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, the AIT training to be a dog tracker. And that was 5-man and a dog, because when you're small, you can do the kinds of things, you know, and I didn't try to do airborne. They asked anybody want to do airborne and take one step forward. My whole platoon took one step backwards. So I was standing out there and I'm going, see, I wish we'd talk about school, because if we talk about school, Mrs. Rosine and my kindergarten teacher, then that explains some of the adult things I did wrong. You know, if you teachers understand, you know, they're talking about Lincoln and I'm thinking about George Washington. So they say, who's the first president? Oh no, who's the 16th president? I go, George Washington, you know. But I know George Washington was first and Lincoln was 16. But that's just where my mind worked. So anyway, I'm standing out there. So they take me to the 101st Airborne Division, and there's this, it's not as glamorous you see on TV. There's this wooden thing you go up, scaffolding. Anybody ever been to Air Force Base? It's huge. And you jump off of it. You with like a bungee cord, a parachute, you know, paperweight or something. I'm going, no, this is not good. And I said to him, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be airborne. You know, I'm going to join the WACs. You know, but anyway, I didn't go airborne. But I was standing on a tarmac, getting ready to go to Vietnam. And a tarmac is regular, like an airport, you know. But we had huge bombers and everything sitting there, and jeeps go in and everything. And there was this church. There was this, they say, stand down, something happened. So I went over into this chapel. And I still have to go back to the school, because when I can talk about Father Porter and Sister John Aquinas, it would make sense. I got on my knees, and I just said, dear God, look, I was a captain in ROTC. There's pictures of me. I mean, I wanted to go to West Point. I wanted to be a general. when I get into something, I get in it. Really, I get in it. And that makes a lot of people who don't understand my culture, and I'm talking about race, but my demeanor, how I operate, they think there's something wrong with them. For an example, I could put a ladder up. I remember one time at Metro, I see Joyce G. Black, so this makes me think. I got this ladder up on the side of the building. I got paint on the steps. They're cooking food in the kitchen, and what happens when you got paint with fumes and you got the ovens going? Bad. Bad. And then I get a phone call. Somebody says, I think it's Janet Reno, because we were trying to get the Attorney General to come to Metro. And now follow me now, don't get confused. I have my hands in the community and a lot of politics too, see? So my job description as the custodian, engineer of a building had nothing to do with the people that would call the school. So now I got the ladder on the building, fumes coming in the kitchen, and she wasn't a doctor yet, but Mary Wazinski goes, get Thompson to that. And so, get Thompson. And then they call Ed Renicky, bless his soul, he's dead now. He says, if you don't get that paint off of those steps, you're going to be fired. So I got a wet vac. You know what a wet vac is?
Wait, is Janet Reno still on the phone
Yeah,
while you're doing
no,
this?
that went away.
Oh, okay.
Because a woman by the name of Myrna works for the school district. Myrna got to the point, she got used to taking my calls, because when I was at Grant Wood, President Clinton called me at Grant Wood. And the secretary, she's a nice woman, she's still alive, she probably see this video. She said, oh, this can't be, are you serious? And hung up. It was the White House. Called her for me, go, why would anybody call somebody who was an ex-janitor, who got in trouble at Metro, who probably should have been fired when he went to Fillmore and got the ladder locked in between the door, and I crawled through the roof and fell down on the floor, and Sharon McNamara was going crazy, But anyway.
So Slayton,
yeah.
When we started, you were in a little church just
Oh yeah,
off the
I know. See, that's what I love. That's why I have all this stuff to keep focused. I didn't take any medicine tonight. But so I left the church. I go back in my unit, and the guy taps me on the shoulder and says, go to that unit over there. I go, why? Go. I went. When I got off the plane, I was in Nuremberg.
Why?
Because that's where they sent me.
No. Why?
Okay, keep that question, because you're going to ask why a lot of things. Why did the kids in the drum corps in a week raise $100,000, Suzanne? Why? Why did the kids who were blind march down the street and watch at homecoming? Why did they march and they couldn't see, but they were there? Why a kid with a broken leg who delivered newspapers, but they put him in a wheelchair, and we're going down Pennsylvania Avenue? Why? I'll tell you why. Because I believe this, because my mama said it. My daddy didn't say anything. Once you're given a covenant, a promise, it's kept no matter what season you're in. I believe this. Look, I've been with Clinton, Carter, Ford, Obama, Reagan, and Bush, yeah. All of them. Barbara Jordan, Nelson Mandela. Why? I don't know why. I'm at the inaugural doing my job. I'm in the Democratic Party. My friend, fellow harmonica player back there, I'm at the convention. When I was a custodian, when I first came to Cedar Rapids, all I was going to do was work at Fillmore with Nancy Pugh for 2 weeks. Raise your hand, Nancy. And there you go. I was going to work for 2 weeks and then go to Las Vegas and play with my brother, who was with Wayne Newton, and Bill Cosby. And that's when things were good. Okay, don't be mad. that's when things were good, And so I just needed the money to play the drums. The band I had here, Dwayne Ampey, and he was a boxer, and Hillsman, Maury Hillsman, here in Cedar Rapids, brought me here in the band called J. Hall 5. And I just got out of the Army, and now you got to remember, we didn't talk about school. But can you follow me? This is an ADD moment.
We will never know why Slayton was in Nuremberg.
No, wait a minute.
However,
Yeah.
however, we are going to let him talk about school.
Let's talk about school, because this is important for children who watch this in the future. When you go to school and they say that you are retarded or there's something wrong with you, as a young child in kindergarten, you believe it because they said there was something wrong with me. Now, you saw the pictures, our big family. You think we sit around like Father Knows Best? Now, what do you kids do today in school? Let's have reading. Let's read Clifford the Big Red Dog. Are you serious? Clifford the Big Red Dog probably got ate up by the rats that were in the hallway. Are you serious? There was no Bill Cosby in the neighborhood. But it wasn't chaotic. There was a guy at Johnson School, a lawyer, what was his name? He once told one of our parents, when I was going to Johnson School, what was that lawyer's name? He worked at Johnson School. Melissa, what was his name? The volunteer at night. He had the night program. What was his name? It'd come to me, but he had these kids after school at night, and they'd be in the cafeteria. And then he would drive with the bus to go pick the kids up. And then somebody would make a comment. They would go down Washington Avenue. There may be 3 different vans picking up the same people in the same family for different programs. And they said, well, they're dysfunctional. Well, guess what? No kid who's in a situation that you grow up in is dysfunctional. Because where they grow up, that's normal. It was normal for me to take a bath in that tub. It was normal for us to share and eat beans or rice. It was normal for us to walk to school, and I mean literally walk a long way to school. It was normal. And it was normal for us not to talk back. It was normal for us not to cuss at a teacher. Because what we got at home wouldn't compare to what you could think you could do to a child with the paddle. That'd be a blessing. Yeah, hit me with the paddle. Mom would knock you out.
Slayton, a little while ago, you mentioned a Catholic priest.
Okay, we're going to go. Yeah, yes. So, but we got to go to elementary. We got to stay focused. Stay focused. So, it's got to stay focused now. I know.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. I understand. That's why I get your notes right here.
Yes.
What was I going to say? Oh, elementary. So there was an elementary teacher, kindergarten teacher, Miss Rosine, and she would rock me. Now, I didn't start school till almost 2 years after my twin, almost 2 years, till my twin went to school. We're in sets of 2s, Slayton and Stanley, Wendell, May Helen. So the other set passed me up. Now, that didn't bother me because you don't think about those things in the family. I was sick, but only when you get in school and they point out, how old are you? How come you're young? I go, I don't know. Well, you must be dumb. Okay. You're stupid. So then you get tagged when I would do this or take my little harmonica a little bit, and they go, Slayton. I go, what? Oh, okay. And then remember, who's George Washington? And I go, well, 16th president. No, my mind was doing this all the time. That doesn't mean that you were something wrong with you. I needed someone to say, come here, like you do the horse, put the things on the blinder. We need to focus on this. What I ended up doing, I ran away from home. And when I ran away from home, not because I didn't love anybody, but I realized there's something wrong and I didn't know what it was. And I will explain all this other stuff. So I ran on this porch, and there was a guy by the name of Father Porter. I didn't know he was a priest, just a black guy. And he's sitting, and these are the good guys, because I know there's stories out there, but he was a good guy. So he found out where I lived. There was no cell phones, and he called my mother. She says, keep them. True story.
It's funnier now than it would have been at the time.
So she said, keep them. So he says, my child. I said, yes, Father Porter. And he said, and I would go to mass with him. I would turn my shirts on the inside. I told Dr. Markward this when he came over to interview me about this book he's doing. I wanted to look like the priest. Well, the school he went to do mass in, it was an all-girls school, half a mile from my home. All girls. And then this nun named Sister John Aquinas, all I could see was her eyes, because back then they had this, all the way down. And I just loved her because I'd never seen anybody dressed like that before. And she sounded just like him. My child, go, oh, this is wonderful. And he says, you got to go to school. I said, I know. Can I go to school here? She said, no, this is all girls school. I said, well, I'm going to be a priest. And when the girls, I remember one of the girls, one of the seniors says, hey, let's invite him to our sock hop. And I said to her, I told these guys in the Army, they all left me. As soon as I told them this story, they all walked away from me. They said, did you go to the sock hop? I said, no. I said, no, my child, I'm going to be a priest. But Father Porter gave me this book. It was called a Reader's Guide. And inside the Reader's Guide were spelling words. There's a word that's Euggeelion. You know what that word is? It's a Greek word for New Testament. It's kind of like when Dr. Wilcki, she said, can you spell my name? Oh, yeah. I learned right away that I could look at something and memorize it because in school, I had to find other skills. When I was president of the union, we go with Dr. Campbell was head of the HR. I was president of the union. We had negotiations, so I asked the secretary, we didn't have computers. I said, how do they do costing? She said, well, I shouldn't do this. Oh, this is on video, isn't it? Anyway, oh, shoot. Okay, it was a good thing, though. It was a good thing.
Don't worry, you can tell the story. It'll be okay.
She said, okay, I'm going to show you this, because she's retired now. Stacy, who was her name, Nige, was a nice woman. She said, so she showed me how they did the costing. So I memorized each cell. So no matter what number you put in there, I knew what the outcome would be. So I said in negotiations, I said, no, that's 2.5%, and that won't work. And they were looking for notes. I said, they're looking, But I did that in school. They thought I was cheating. We had to put all the states together and all the capitals. I put them all down, and I was done. She said, no, you're cheating. I said, no, I'm not. So you had to find a different way of learning. Okay? And then you ended up entertaining people. Sometimes you entertain people to throw them off. Just like kids who get angry, to throw them off because they don't know what, they're afraid that you might know they don't understand. So they'll do something. Get out of here. Go to detention. That's not why they're going to detention. They have something they need to learn. They're making a distraction. So it's all those bad kids. No, they have something. They can't get it out, so they do something else. That's not all kids, but that's what I learned for me. That's why when I started working in the community, everybody that had a card, I got everybody's card.
Speaking of working in the community.
I'm going to do that right now.
Okay, good. Some of you may wonder what union Slayton is talking about, for example. So we're going to try to pull you along from the beginning of your time in Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
You get out of the Army.
You got out of the Army.
You come to Cedar Rapids because you're in a band. Is that right?
Yes.
And what happens to I don't know that I should ask this question. What happens to the band?
They all left.
And why didn't you go with them?
Because I got a lady pregnant.
I've been doing this for a while. And I did not see that coming.
Well, you asked. So
I did.
So I met this woman who I thought was black. In the Cougar Downs.
This happened after 2 weeks?
There's no question and answer right now. Get out. Anyway, so got to stay focused. So I met this woman, and she went to this tanning booth. Her name was Linda. Very nice. But you saw my sisters. So for her to say, she didn't have to say what she was. I just automatically assumed she had an afro. Skin was dark. I just thought, well, she's African American or biracial. Winter came, and she got light, about like this. I'm going. Whoa! Man! Wow, don't talk. So I said,
I just want to know where the Cougar Lounge was.
So and you see, you got to remember now, I told those girls I wanted to be a priest, so I didn't know. So I was kind of happy. I was going, whoa, look what I missed out on all those years. So, and so I said, I'm not leaving. Why? My mother and father never left anybody. We make mistakes. The real man stays. The real man takes the shiny shoes off and the drumsticks, put them down, and you get a job. And then you move on like nothing's happened because you got to do what? Feed the baby. Take care of the wife. You know. And that's what I did. And I did it the best way I could. It wasn't Father knows best, so what I thought was good may not be the same as anybody else. So after 17 years, she went one way, and Eric and I went one way. In the end of the story, that's good. They're both together, and we're still great friends. Because we learned to forgive. Paul with Saul killed people, killed Jews and children. And on the road to Damascus, Jesus says, Saul, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And he said, I don't know. Then he went blind. To Ananias, 3 days he was blind. And then he wiped off his eyes and he could see. He became Paul. Wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. The guy used to kill people. So I can't take care of baby? Come on, give me a break. And that medication I didn't get, I substituted with Mad Dog, Ripple, and Jack Daniels. Because I knew as an adult there's something really wrong. And I met Madge Phillips one day, and Gene Oxley and Carter Bradshaw. And between those three and Nelson Evans, they saw the good in me. I was just telling Gene tonight, I says, when your enemies can see the good in you because you're a threat to them. In your jobs, if you ever wonder why you're getting picked on, they see how great you could be. Not your friends. Your enemies see your greatness. Your friends walk beside you. That's not necessarily a good thing. Okay, Judas walked beside Jesus. He actually had communion with him. But you need people like Dr. Lagos back there. She said, don't call me out, so I won't. But and Sheila Billington, who's in Arizona. And believe it or not, I got this beautiful letter from Mary Wazinski. And we used to fight heads. I used to say, boy, if I could get her in that boiler room with that furnace going and with that lid up, I could just slip her in there. And that thing is so hot, it burned metal. They would never find her. And they go, where's the principal? I go, I don't know. But that same woman wrote a letter.
You were worried about telling the story about the spreadsheet.
Stay focused. Got to stay focused. So, I don't know why this guy can't stay focused. Have a drink of water. But you know, so Mary writes a letter to the Cedar Rapids Freedom Festival Hero Award. She got to Kennedy High School and she says, I wish Slayton was here. You see, when I was at Metro, I wasn't against Metro because I was Metro. If I was growing up, I needed a Metro. Those people saw me this way and that way. You got to remember what was going on in the 60s. Segregation. Housing deprivation. I mean, think about it. You got a kid and all this stuff, and we're supposed to dissect it and figure it all out. Black and only, white only, you know, and then soccer moms and no moms, you know, and they say welfare queens that they caused. So, and then you say, how's a child supposed to figure all that out? And then all of a sudden they go, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And then all of a sudden you read, oh, Angela Manuel, black people, they built Washington, D.C., and they came over and go, oh, we did that? We did that? My ancestors did that? The griots, the pyramids, Egyptology, we did that? We were there? Hannibal, the great generals, the physicists, geometry. Now my eyes are going, wow. And then the stuff that the priest told me, and the love, not walking beside, but giving you opportunity. Slayton, we want you to work at Grant Wood. Slayton, we want you to work at Johnson. Slayton, we want you to do this. Slayton, we want you to do that. So now you got all this love. And you don't worry about when you had a fight with a principal or a custodian, and one of the guys says, I'm a Klan member, union president, I got him 55-cent raise, well, they all did. And he said, if you talk about Thompson, I'm going to punch you. He went from a Klan member to I'll punch you. Because once their needs are met, here I learned this at First Lutheran. HP equals CP equals CC equals MI. High potency, close proximity, clear communication, maximum impact. That's the gospel. But it was already there because Mama prayed about it. Already prayed about it. I already had a promise. I already had a ring, a spiritual ring, not a physical ring. This ring is deceiving. I'm in Arkansas. She's there. Okay, fine. I'm leaving you. That's fine. That's flesh. We live for eternity. We build up for eternity. Once a child learns that, once I learned that, I could do anything for you. I got Dr. Mark Word $1 million. He called me in Washington, D.C. He says, Slayton, thank you very much. I got my money. And you ask, and I go, how?
I thought I was supposed to ask why. You were very certain that I was supposed to ask why. But I do want to know about the money.
Yeah.
But you were about to tell us.
Yes.
How after, if I may quote you, you got a lady pregnant.
Yeah.
You got a job. What was that job?
Working at Quaker Oats.
And how do you get from Quaker Oats to the Cedar Rapids Community School District?
We got to go in between here in just a minute. Okay, so
I'm trying. I really am.
So I'm at where am I? The band broke up. Oh, I got to tell you this. So the band breaks up, and this is before I met Carter and those guys.
What did you play in the band?
I was a drummer.
Okay.
So, and the manager. So I go to Quaker Oats, and I wear my band on. I got cashmere hat on, wingtip shoes, you know, this smooth, 20, young, you know, beautiful hair. And so I walk in there, and I see this great big black picture with this big red lips, a bandana on the head, dude, and it was Aunt Jemima. So I says to him, I go, no. I'm looking for a job, and the first thing I see, I'm going, whoa. And so the lady at the desk says, there's a problem? I go, well, yeah. That's got to come down. Really, 1970. She says, what do you mean come down? I go, if my mother seen that right now, she'd yank you up behind that desk, and you'd be wearing that bandana, and your lips would be red. True story. Betty, am I lying? Okay, thank you. And so she goes, picks up the phone. Hey, Vern, I think you need to come down here. Bob Blasingame was a plant manager. Now, you remember when I told you how as a child, how I did things to survive, you know, just to survive. So now my head's going. So they said, when do you want? He says, what do you want? I says, well, I like the job here. He says, well, so now they're messing with me. He said, well, when would you like to start? I said, when are the hours? He said, 11 to 7, 7 to 3:30 or something like that. I go, 11 to 7. Well, I work nights. I work from 9 at night to 2 in the morning in a band. You know, that's what I'm used to. He says, oh, you like nights? I said, oh, yeah, you know, I play drums and stuff. He says, well, I don't know if we have those kind of hours. How about 7 to 3:30? Because he didn't think I was coming back the way I was dressed, you know. I looked like $1 million. So I said, well, that's okay. I said, he said, when would you like to start? I said, what's the day? He says, day's Tuesday. I'll come back Thursday. He said, okay. So I leave. I come back in just regular clothes. He says, you got to wear khaki pants, a white hat with a black bill on it, and it's a Quaker on the front. And I go, oh, no, this won't work. He says, this won't work. So he says, hey, Scott, he says, this won't work. He's talking to me. So he calls upstairs to Blasingame. Now they're making fun. They're having a good time, you know. So I go home and I iron the pants, make them really shiny, sharp, spray. Take the hat, and then I put wire on the hat so it's standing up, and I get me some patent leather boots. Then I come back, and he goes, whoa! He says, he takes me upstairs. He says, so I go to punch, you know, I got to punch in. You know, you punch in, the Quaker. When I went to go to punch in, everybody walks away from the clock. And I punch in. So he takes me into this room, and he sits me down, and he says, you sit here, and you suck up the bad cereal. I said, that's all I do? He said, that's all you do. You just sit here and suck up the bad cereal. So I'm sitting there going, but in the background, I hear boom, boom, boom. I hear all this noise from the factory. But I'm thinking, boom, 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 boom. And I'm going like this. Now, the bad cereal's now caught on this little arm, so now it's piled up like this. Right? So the foreman comes over, he goes, "What the hell are you doing?" I go, "Oh, I'm sorry." So I push it all on the floor. He says, "Come with me." He says, "You know how many people would like to sit down and do this job?" I go, "Well, I can't sit down this long to do this job. I just can't. I'm sorry." He says, "Well," he put me down on the floor where they pull these big tanks. And you pull these tanks, and then the bad cereal goes in the tanks. Then you pull the tanks over to a certain area, and then the bad cereal goes in the trucks for the farmers. That was great. All you had to do was subtract the weight from the tank from what's in the cereal and put it on the deal there. So once you do that 3 or 4 times, it's all the same. You just memorize it. Same, you know. But let's go back to, now I'm going to tell you, this makes sense. This makes sense. Let's go back to high school. Now, this is why this is going to make sense. Now, remember Quaker Oats, right? Let's go back to the 60s. In high school, this girl, since I didn't dance, I didn't have my flair with women, I got invited to Edsel Ammons, was the bishop of the United Methodist Church of America, black guy. I didn't know that until I moved to Cedar Rapids. But anyway, his daughter was in my high school, and I took her to the prom. Well, I always played drums, so I really didn't know how to dance. So I invented breakdancing. The band was playing.
Like you've buried the lead.
No, wait a minute. This is the way they danced back then. They was like being real cool, you know, like this. I was going, yay, you know, like this. So she walks away as fast as she could go. So I got this tuxedo on, and it got the fancy jacket. So I said, screw it. So I leave the school and get on the bus and go to Chicago. It's 90 miles away. Yeah, I get this. This is how Quaker Oats. I go to Chicago, and I'm looking in the window, and this guy goes, "Get in here." He says, "Get in here." I said, "Okay." I had on a jacket, the way the ushers looked inside the theater, so he thought I was working there. True story. So I go in as Sammy Davis Jr., Golden Boy, a play. So I'm going, wow, I have never seen a play. You know, in real life, human beings with the lights, cameras, professionals. So I'm going, all right. So I just go, because I figured they're going to figure me out in a minute. So I go up in these little round seats they got with the curtains behind. So I'm in there, nobody in there, so I'm looking at this. This is great. So then I go downstairs when it's over, and I went out the wrong door, and there's a limo. So I get in it. And guess who's in it? No, Franklin Greer. He made the movie Hope for Bill Clinton. So I met him back then. So now let's move up back to the modern. So now I'm in Cedar Rapids, president of the state union and the local union, and this guy says, we need the local presidents to be with us at the national convention in New York City. Bill Bradley and all that good stuff. Doris Pike, Kay Chapman, these are some Democrat friends of mine, and there was a lot of folks there, and Bill Bradley, and so Franklin Greer, who I met back in high school, made this movie. He said, I said, yes, when I was a kid, you were, he says, well, we're going to bring it, when we get to New York, we're going to take you downstairs. There's Jesse Jackson, Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Governor Wilder, Rosa Parks. I mean, everybody you ever want to read about was there. So I get on this platform just like this, and they raise you up on the deal. Now, Eric is in college watching TV. So his roommate says, hey, is your dad at the national convention in New York? And he said, yeah, he's somewhere out there. He says, I don't think somewhere out there. He says, is that him right there? What happened was this guy was in a wheelchair. This guy was in a wheelchair, was a veteran in a wheelchair. I said, sir, you need to go up front. So I push him a little bit. I says, bye-bye. So then I went up there and stand next to the president. So...
Listen, I'm new here, but you promised.
Okay, we stay focused. Yeah.
You promised this was all going to get us back to Quaker Oats.
Okay, well, I did Quaker Oats. So he did the movie. I met him, and that's how Quaker Oats. That was it. I left Quaker Oats to deal with Stan Gunn show. He was with Bill. Let's see, Hee Haw. I did a thing with Campbell.
Roy Campbell. Look at me. I'm
Yeah.
contributing.
Let's see.
Roy Clark.
Roy Clark, yeah.
Thank you.
It was Roy Clark. I didn't know all these guys. I didn't know. It was Roy Clark, Marty Stewart, Pee Wee Martin, String Bean. And I didn't know these guys. And they had this big old dog with big ears laying down there on the floor. And how I got that job, Rush Sandersfield in the Mountain Colonies ran the Mountain Colonies. Smoolikos, Chuck Wells says to me, I was in Smoolikos, they always had cheers. They sit around, so I'd go down there and sit down there like this. How you doing, Chuck? He says, hey, how you doing, Slayton? I said, how's it going here today? He says, fine. He says, Slayton, they need a drummer down there in the Manas. I said, really? Who needs a drummer? He says, Stan Gunn. I said, what is that? He said, well, that's a big Showtime band. They do Elvis Presley, big shows. I said, oh, really? Okay, I'll drive down there. So I went down there, and they always talk like this. How you doing, guy? You know, they need a tooth, but they go, how you doing, guy? And they had rings on every finger. And they had those big square checkered jackets, you know how they used to wear those jackets on Bill, what's his name? With Dolly Parton. Oh, who was it, Dolly Parton?
Porter Wagner.
Porter Wagner, thank you. It was Porter Wagner. So, yeah, it was Porter Wagner. So I said, I'll do the show. So I was playing the show, and then they said, you're fired. I go, why? We play country. I said, that's what I'm doing. He said, no, I want country. Like, I was going, on the road again. No, he said, we don't need all that. We don't need all that. Just give us a simple boom, check, boom, check. I said, all I need is a hi-hat and a snare drum. He goes, that's about it. I said, well, how much you paying? He says, $700. Man, I went and got me an album of Roy Clark. I got me some country. I started listening. I go, for $700? Yeah, I'm ready. I learned this song by Old Dogs and Children and Watermelon Wine. You ever hear it? Yeah, it's nasty. But no, I enjoyed it. But I got to get serious for a minute. Now, this is for the kids. Look, sometimes in the school district or in your job or your professional positions, they don't always help you. Now, let's go back to when I said that my growing up, I was considered all these different things. But you have to find people who can plug into you and support you. When I went to Tyler Elementary School as the engineer of the building, back then, the school district didn't have a real format. Like, I have this book. I mean, I know ABC on it. But custodians didn't have a book. You went into the schools. They give you a broom and a mop. There's the closet. There's the water. There's the grass. There's a lawnmower. They didn't have a book. Now, the people who knew how to run the boilers, I don't know how they did, but they learned over a period of time. That's not good enough. I wanted them to have a certificate. When I became union president, I said, you want more money? Let's get certified so we know what we're doing. We don't blow up kids. So you know your job. So they can respect you. They say, kumbaya, we're all family. No, it's not. It's not all family. That's just a song they sing. It's only family when you have it up here and can do it. When I went to the school, the woman there, she's a nice woman. I mean, she said, you figure it out. So I went to Eddie Nash. He was working there before me. I said, this was on a Friday. I said, Eddie, I start my new job at Tyler Elementary School. I don't even know how to open it up. Oh, come on, so-and-so. He used the words. He's a nice guy. He was kind of rough, though. He says, come on, I'll show you. So when Monday came, I was ready to open that building up. I never forgot that. So when they made me homeless liaison, I didn't want that because I said, what makes me qualified? So I went to Betty. She's back there. I said, Betty, just tell me, what did Margaret do for you as the homeless liaison, as the homeless, she's the, was it facilitator or outreach? I don't know the title you had, Betty. What was your title, dear?
Oh, I was a program assistant over at Waypoint.
Yeah, and so here's what she did to me. In 2007, she wrote 9 things that she wanted to have happen. So when I got the job, I knew how to approach her. I knew how to approach Waypoint. I knew how to work with Willis Daily Shelter. And then I made this book. Then I knew how to work with everybody in the city. High potency, close proximity, clear communication, maximum impact.
Speaking of maximum impact,
Yes, sir.
we're about to go into extra innings, and it might surprise you to learn that I am not paid by the hour. So I want to jump to the drum corps.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of maximum impact, tell me why and how you founded the drum corps, and then hit some of the highlights of that experience.
Okay, if you've not figured it out, I don't have a period. It's all continual. My childhood with the Phantom Regiment in my neighborhood was the only drum corps. There was an all-black drum corps in Rockford, Illinois, called the Regals. And my big brother Butch used to take me to that rehearsal. I was so small, he just carried me on his shoulders. I was too small to play the drums, so they gave me cymbals. And I was too small for a uniform, so they just told me to wear a white shirt and black pants. When I was walking down the street again, and I saw this other corps called the Phantom Regiment, I'm going, whoa, these guys are great. As nice as I'm trying to be, at the time, I didn't realize it. It wasn't overt. They didn't want me in that program. It's just the way it was. I don't know what it was. I'm not saying they were prejudiced. I'm not saying that. But as a little kid, you can tell, get away. I wanted to play the drums. So I played on a pillow so I could learn it better. I would watch through the window of the big guys practicing, just practicing and practice. So I would practice. I learned 36 rudiments, just like I learned to spell and do the numbers up here. That's why when I did a classroom and a custodian, I could put everything back in that teacher's classroom the way she left it at the last day of school. And I would draw a picture. Because I remember what Fred Steitzer was like, Kim Lemke was like. I remember what Ruth Harbour was like. Ruth Harbour came back to Cedar Rapids and said, Slayton, I'm sorry the way I treated you. Really? She said, yes. I said, that's okay, Mrs. Harbour. I was a community liaison then. She said, no, I wanted to tell you this. Then she went back to Kansas City and died. But here's what she did. Slayton, I'm sorry. Kim Lemke took me out to lunch. Could never do it while he was working. Dr. Bird took me out to lunch. Could never do it while he was working. Dr. Markward never took me out to lunch. And
You're not keeping score at all, are you, Slayton?
No. Neither did Sally, no. But you see, it's all good. You got to, is the glass half full or half empty? You can't hold a grudge on the inside of your body. You'd be miserable 24/7. But you have to remember footsteps so you don't walk in it. Okay? Look, doo-doo smells. Manure's on the ground. But what happens when you spread manure? Great things grow, right? So we all come out of some sneaky stuff, but we all grow good, you know? Yeah, we do. Yeah, don't think you don't smell, buddy, because we all do. Don't get proud. But what these kids know, they have to know. They don't know anything. They think they do. There's a lot of walking adult kids, you know, but you got to be able to get comfortable. Suzanne Nichols, and she's sitting back there. Raise your hand, Suzanne. I know, sorry, you got to do it. Suzanne was one of the greatest volunteers that those young boys could ever have. She didn't take any nonsense. She was like Teresa Sturgis. I wish she was here. I had 30 girls one day. I went back to practice, only 15. What happened? You want me to be rough? I go, wait a minute. Oh. But here we had to learn something. Now, a substitute teacher is okay, but they got to give you permission to do certain things and say certain things. Kids will let you say anything once they give you permission. I don't mean bow down to them, but a trust bond. They know you really care. There's a big difference. When you have tough discipline, technically, professionally proficient, they know you for the best interest. It's like, you're going to read this. Sheila told me I went to Grantway. You don't type? I said, no. Well, you're going to learn. Okay. She closed that door, and she wore an apron. You're going to learn. I go, okay. I'm walking down the hallway. Margaret O'Banion's sitting over there. I'm going to have to call you out, Margaret. She says, are you grounding yourself? You remember that? But that whole staff took on, not drum corps, that whole staff, I had 12 kids in my neighborhood. I said, okay, you guys stay out of my yard. It was Tony and Stephanie, because we gave the Tony and Stephanie award. Those two little kids, so I gave them a drum. I said, if you guys stop doing all this crazy stuff, you can play the drums. So then Linda says, why don't they do their homework? So we brought their homework in the house. We had this great big Bible, and the Bible was 10 times bigger than this, about big as, and had a rough top on it. So they beat on that Bible. I said, we didn't have drum pads or anything, and Eric only had one drum set in the house, and he was in college. So I said, hey, this is a great idea. So we got all the kids that wanted to do this, but we had one thing: do your homework. So Grant Wood, Sheila Billington would say, these kids are getting this work done. How? Why? They go, that guy Thompson, where's he work? He was at Metro High School engineer. Really? We ought to have him in our school. And so I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, I don't know if you know Ellen Resky and Lou Finch, Dr. Finch. When they wanted, and Steve Chambers, when they wanted to change things, it changed. You know, and I said, no, I'm not qualified. I'm really not qualified. You're going to be a community liaison. So no, I'm not qualified. He said, you're going to work in this school. You do what you do after school, in the school, and then we're going to train you to do stuff. I went to Nebraska. I went to school training. I went to some classes, and I did all this other stuff because they wanted to make sure that I was normal, you know, that I wouldn't eat a kid or something, you know. But and I loved it. They taught me. They treated me as an adult, but they also walked with me. That's what we have to do as adults. We have to stop judging people from on the surface, adults even, because you don't know me. You don't know me, and I don't know you. But one thing we have in common, we're human. And we can learn to love one another. High potency, close proximity, clear communication. Hey, if something door closes, that another door opens. When we started this kid, I asked Bill, Mr. Sadillac at McKinley, can I borrow some drums? I'll make sure you get more drums. Oh, I don't know. I said, they're in a case. Let me borrow those drums. I'll bring them right back. So he gave me some drums sitting in the back of the room. Those kids went down the street. The Gazette called them the ragtag crew because over at Grant, well, this is 1990, right? 1990. This is before the public even knew about us. And so they're banging the drums and stuff after school. Sheila Billington let those kids practice from 3 to 3:30 just to get the program started. We had everybody wanting to get out of class for that. We looked like John Philip Sousa, man. 500 kids wanted to be in the drum corps. I go, yes! You know, this is great. And I felt, this is how I felt right here. Where's this picture? This is my favorite picture right here. Right here. I love this. This is how I felt right here. This is how I felt on the inside. Okay? And this is how I was felt on the other side. Hallelujah! I was going, oh yeah, baby. You see, and I never let anybody, I didn't let those kids, I let those kids see the real me. I let them see the real me. Not what adults saw. They saw the real kid adult. They saw, he's cool, Mr. Thompson's cool. And then you could ask them any question or say anything. They'll tell you everything. Then you can work with them. How's that home? And then with Dr. Lagos, oh, no, we can't tell you that. But I mean, look, we got bills paid, houses built. I have a friend who bought a house for one of our families. I said, I said, I need a house, blah, blah, blah. A holiday. He calls me back. How's that? I said, that's all you got? He said, yeah, that's all I got. I go, fine. They had a house. Gas turned on. Food in the house. Transportation, not just once, a car. That's real homeless service. We got enough people in Cedar Rapids where we don't have all these nonprofits. Look, you can have a nonprofit. I'm not knocking these nonprofits. That's great. But if all you're doing is feeding the kid, you're just entertaining them. You're babysitting. You got to feed the whole family. And I don't mean food. I mean technically, professionally proficient. Look, Dr. Washer was so angry with me one time. She said, what are you doing with that for? We don't do that as a school district. I said, what do you mean? Bus tickets, book bags, in the school. I go, yeah, they need more than that. What do you mean? Dr. Washer, look, if this mom and dad had a job in transportation, we wouldn't see them again. We wouldn't need a metro with the term alternative. How do you have alternative? We wouldn't need Black History Month. What is that? I'm only good for 30 days?
It's 28.
Oh, it's even shorter. I'm sorry. Sorry, boss. Come on. Hey, we wouldn't need Lutherans, Presbyterians. We wouldn't need. What church did Jesus go to?
Jewish.
He went to the synagogue. But what did he say? Look, John 14:27. John 14:27. Find that for me. John 14:27. Okay. You got the drum corps in there? Okay, all right. We're going to turn this on, but first he's going to find John 14:27.
You have this marked up kind of weird,
Well,
man.
I use it.
Yeah, well, clearly. Holy moly. There's Luke. All right.
Test.
What's the reference again?
John 14:27.
14,
Yeah.
27.
Yeah, here we go.
Somewhere under
Take
all
you
of
to
this
school.
stuff. Yeah. John. Yeah, no, I'm in John. It's the 14 I'm having trouble with. 14,
27.
27.
What does it say?
Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid.
Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not be afraid. And when you can give that child that information, no matter what goes on in their life, they can still make it. John 14:27. Because then they'll run to the next message. In my Father's house there's many mansions. I go prepare a place for you. He was just talking to the Jews in the synagogue. Because Paul talked about mercy and grace. So, not preaching, but these are the things that stabilized me when things were so chaotic. When I was like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. I didn't get burned up because I learned mama prayers. I didn't understand them, but as an adult, I graduated. I graduated out of my job. I didn't retire. I just graduated. I'm never retired. How do you retire from living? I just moved on to the next section. And I hope along the way, if I hurt someone, like Paul says, the things I do not want to do, but I do. Because he was human. So we ask for forgiveness and grace. And then you get those human angels call you up and they help you. Because we need one another. That's what we have to do. You don't wait for the Holy Spirit to come. No, we have to do it. We have to be living human angels. We have to love one another. The money that those kids raised, $100,000, all those people, show the video. They love seeing those kids come down the street.
And now we'll watch the video.
Yeah, that side there, that'd be perfect. No, the other one. There you go. That's in Washington, D.C. I had to have my son help. One of the kids got sick. See, look at that. Susan Nichols, Dr. Lagos, Nelson Evans. Look at all those teachers. Look at all those parents, secretaries. Isn't that special? In KCRG, when they did a parade, we didn't know if we could be it or not, so we used to go at the end of the parade, just join them. Yeah. Look at that. Natasha. That's my girl right there. Bernadette. There she is. This is during the flood of 2008. We had reservations to stay at the center in Maryland, Virginia to do the inaugurations, but we didn't go because of the flood. So we gave those rooms to the group in Iowa City, or Des Moines, the Isorettes. That's Sahika. Ellen Williams, the principal of Grantwood. We'd like to have our parents up front. He's at the University of Iowa right now. Sire. He was at Johnson School. That little boy came to Johnson School one day and he says to the teacher, "Are you jellyfish, brick wall, or backbone?" And the teacher says, Mrs. Cox calls me up. She says, "Mr. Thompson, what are you teaching those kids over there in the summertime?" I said, "Well, it's Barbara Clarosa. Jellyfish, brick wall, backbone." You see, a jellyfish parent, teacher, job person, whatever, that's fine. I was poor, so you don't have to do it. I don't want you to feel bad. Okay, jellyfish. Brick wall. Bam, why'd you hit me? Because you're going to do something wrong. That's my mom. But brick wall. Backbone. If the clock's up here and you can't see, bring one down here. Tell you why you're going to do something. This is what we're going to do. Be technically professional, proficient, but use their language for that. Dr. Legos used to make them draw pictures. Tell me how you feel. She would draw a picture. They would draw a picture. You see, there's all kinds of techniques of teaching. That sounds like glubbity-glub if you're a real drummer and professional, but to them, it didn't sound like glubbity-glub. The kids who play can play the Radabacues and the ram tap. The kids who can't play it, look on the wall over there. See that picture with the grasshopper and the elephant? Okay, so and then up front there's some down here. When you have the big kids, they play dot 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 da 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 versus a kid who's playing the same thing, only he's putting more into it. They think they're playing the same thing. The goal is not for competition. The goal is participation, because they can all march in the parade together. If they're out of step, you take all the kids who are out of step, put them with the ones who are out of step. Now they're all in step because they were all out of step.
Speaking of being a little out of step.
So, no, but really, so you don't yell at them, "Get in line, get in line, get in line." What does that mean? All they can hear is your noise. When I didn't bring my dog tonight because it'd be such a distraction. But when I want her to do something, I go,
Esther is an excellent dog.
I go, Esther. I whisper, I go, "Esther." And she'll, "Esther, let's go in the house." That's how she does it. I say, "Esther, get in the chair." She gets in the chair. I ask her to sit down. She sits down. Go get the newspaper. That's a dog. We could do that with humans. Helen Keller. When Eric was small, I put his hand in my hand. I put my hand on his mouth and his hand on my mouth. When he was really, really small, I knew from watching myself, the inner child, I can raise this child to do things quickly. And I studied Rodney Allen Rippey, the Jackson 5, the Osmonds. I was always reading about what other kids in the show business, like I said, what do I need to do? The guy who taught me the drums was blind, and he put my hand on his drum, and he'd play. I could see, he couldn't. Then I'd play, and he could tell me, "No, you're doing it wrong." I mean, there's so many things you learn. Look, you can learn from the street. If you're in the bad street, you learn drugs. You learn prostitution. But you can also learn love and support and how to maneuver. Do you know any dumb drug people? I don't. You have to be smart to wheel and deal. And they don't use their own stuff. They're entrepreneurs. What imagine if you put that kid in a nice classroom so they can grow and bloom. Don't look at the looks. Don't look at the pants down or the earrings or whatever you want to wear. You know, that doesn't bother me. My day, we wore afros and platform shoes. I mean, I showed up to work one time with a great big old Fillmore. Fred Sticer used to be principal there. My first week at that school, I think I sent that man to the Looney Tune. I thought he was going to die because I go, yo, my man. You know. And they always said, they called him the Bantam Rooster, right? You remember, Fred?
The Bantam Rooster?
Banny Rooster.
Okay.
Yeah, they called him. He said, my brother's working Stock Exchange of Mercury. We became friends, but you know, I was just different because I had to tone it down. See, I'm just loose tonight, but I had to turn it down. I had to know, you can't be with President Clinton, President Obama, President Bush, President Reagan, Nelson Mandela, Barbara Jordan. You can't be with all these people like this. So Ruby Payne talks about understanding the language. So I had to learn how white people did things. Yeah. I had to learn what the community looked like because it wasn't Harlem. I had to find out how the Smolikoffs act, how the Cannies act, how the Madge Phillips act, how did Don Thomas act, how did Craig Curry act, how did the people act, okay, and people like Dr. White. You know, black people be straight too. No? Well, how did the Kings act? How did Senator Lewis act? But our boys and girls need to see that. They need to hear that. They were talking about critical race theories. You know, it's only critical because it shouldn't be critical. We need to learn about each other as human beings. You like bananas, I like apples. But if our action causes us to divide, it's our actions that make things different. It's our actions that make church different. It's our understanding or misunderstanding of what God's all about that makes things different. You know, at one time, this woman came to school at Grantwood School. She was mad at the art teacher. And she says, I want to see it. Well, the art teacher was Pat O'Mary, was in his room. Connie Tesser was gone. And she says, Slayton kind of watched over the office. And anyway, I ended up in the office. So this woman comes in and she says, so I asked Mr. O'Mara, could he come down? He was doing a prep time, but he came down anyway. And he said, you taught my child how to be racist. He says, how? Well, in the art room, they had to make signs on their cups to put in the kiln. A kiln is a big thing you put clay in and it gets hard, you know. So he made a swastika sign because he was doing what the sign originally meant. You know, the original sign of that was a powerful Native American sign, okay? Not Hitler, but people don't know that. So she thought he was recruiting for the white racist, some Aryan nation, whatever it was, I don't know. So I said to her, she had a cross on. So I said, bye-bye, they got a meeting. So she had a cross on. So I said, that's a cross you have on. She says, yes, it is. I said, what does that cross represent? She goes, she looks at her husband. That guy just sitting there like this, you know. I said, what does that cross represent? And she says, what do you mean? I said, well, my grandmother saw that cross in her front yard. It had fire underneath it. Do you have fire underneath your cross? Ooh, she got up from that chair, walked out of that school, and she moved. They took the kids out of school and moved.
Okay, this is a really strange place to stop.
Okay.
But we're gonna. And I'm going to toss in just one personal story. I have known Slayton since I was in high school with his son, Eric. Eric and I were in a band together. Eric was the drummer. I was a guy they let be in the band. Eric is now carrying Slayton's work forward, working for Dr. White, for the academy, and also as the drum instructor for my daughter, Jessica, teaching another generation how to pay the music forward and to be active in the community and all of those sorts of things. So it has been my great, if ever so slightly difficult honor to present Slayton tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Mike and Esther Wilson for supporting the program. Please, Slayton put a lot of work into putting the things up. Take a look around. He'll be happy to answer your questions one-on-one. Remember, you can ask him why, and you can ask him how.
And I got something for you.
He's got something for us.
Yes, I do. I have a check for $300 for your center.
Oh, for the History Center. Slayton, that is so gracious. Thank you so very much. Be like Slayton. If you're not a member of the History Center, it's time to become a member of the History Center. Thank you. We'll be back with another probably somewhat shorter program sometime down the road. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.